Imagine a time before humans could speak, write, or even form symbols. A time when communication was nothing more than gestures, sounds, and silence. And yet, even in that silence, something extraordinary was happening. Hidden beneath the grunts, the pointing hands, the rhythm of footsteps, and the cries of survival. Language was being born, but here's the strange part. No one really knows where language came from. Was it a gift from the cosmos? Was it shaped by evolution, carved slowly into our minds like rivers shaping valleys? Or could it be something even more mysterious, something that connects us not just to each other, but to the very fabric of the universe itself? In this journey, we're diving into the hidden origins of language. Not just the words we speak today, but the ancient, invisible forces that made communication possible in the first place. The story of language is not just about sounds or grammars. It's about human identity, consciousness, and the way we've learned to give meaning to existence. Think about it. Every word you use is like a spell. It turns thoughts into something others can understand. Without words, your ideas remain trapped inside your mind. With words, they take shape, they travel, they transform reality. That's why some ancient cultures believed language itself was sacred. It's a divine gift that allowed humans to create worlds with sound. Linguists and archaeologists have tried to trace language back through history, but the trail is foggy. Fossils don't record words, and writing systems are a very recent invention. The earliest evidence of spoken language is hidden in caves, in the echoes of ancient chants. In symbols carved on stone walls tens of thousands of years ago, some theories say language began as pure, musical rhythm of sounds before it ever became structured words. Imagine early humans gathered around a fire, humming, chanting, and mimicking the sounds of the forest. Over time, those sounds may have turned into the first words. In this view, language didn't just emerge, it was sung into existence. Others argue it began with survival. Hunters needed to signal danger, families needed to express needs, and tribes needed to share stories. Slowly, simple signals grew into complex sentences. The need to connect and survive may have shaped the very structure of how we think and speak today. But then there's a deeper mystery. Across the world, cultures tell myths of a first language, a language of the gods, or a language that once united humanity before it was shattered into thousands of tongues. In the Bible, there's the story of the Tower of Babel, where humans once spoke one language, but it was broken apart as punishment. In Hindu tradition, Sanskrit is considered a cosmic language, a sound vibration that underlies reality itself. Could these myths hold clues to something real? Did humanity once share a single, primal language that connected us all? Or is language itself an evolving mirror of human consciousness, always changing as we change? Every sentence we speak today carries echoes of this hidden past. The words in your mouth right now are built on layers of history, sounds shaped by migration, symbols born from survival, meanings shaped by ancient rituals. To speak is to stand on the shoulders of countless ancestors who slowly, painfully, beautifully created the miracle of communication. And yet, we still don't fully understand how it all began. Maybe the origins of language are not buried in history at all, but inside us, in the very way our minds perceive reality. Perhaps language is not just a human invention, but a force of nature. Woven into the fabric of existence like gravity or light, this is the hidden origin of language, not just a history of words, but a story of mystery, myth, and the unbreakable desire to connect. Asterisk, when we look back into human history. One of the greatest turning points was the invention of writing. Before that, spoken language existed, but it was fleeting words, disappeared into the air as soon as they were spoken. Writing, however, froze sound into symbol. It captured thoughts and preserved them across time. The earliest forms of writing weren't full alphabets like we use today. They were symbols and images scratched into clay, carved on stone, or painted on cave walls. Think of the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia around 5,000 years ago. Small wedge-shaped marks pressed into wet clay. These were some of the first written records of human life. They weren't used for poetry or philosophy at first, but for trade, taxes, and keeping track of resources. Yet from these humble beginnings, whole civilizations grew. In Egypt, Hieroglyphs told stories not just of kings and gods, but of life and death, belief and meaning. To the Egyptians, words were not ordinary. They were magic. They believed that to write something down was to give it life, to make it real. Their gods were creators of language, and humans, by writing, were imitating the divine. In China, the earliest writing was carved into oracle bones used for divination. Each symbol carried power, a bridge between humans and the spiritual world. Over centuries, this evolved into one of the most sophisticated writing systems on Earth, one still used today. But here's where things get interesting. These writing systems developed independently. Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, and later the Mayan civilization in the Americas, none of them copied each other. Each culture invented its own unique way of turning sound and meaning into symbol. Doesn't that suggest something deeper? That the human mind is naturally drawn to create language and record it no matter where or when. Even before writing, language left its mark in another way, in symbols and art. The cave paintings of Lascaux in France, dating back nearly 20,000 years, may not be writing as we know it, but they're a form of communication. They show us that humans long to leave messages, to share experiences beyond their lifetimes. Was this the first step toward writing? The first attempt to transform thought into something that could survive death? And here's a mystery that still puzzles researchers across the world. In cultures separated by oceans, certain symbols appear again and again. Spirals, crosses, geometric patterns. These universal shapes show up in ancient caves, temples, and artifacts. Could these be fragments of an older, forgotten language? A primal visual code that connected early humans everywhere. Language, whether spoken or written, doesn't just communicate, it shapes thought itself. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, proposed in the 20th century, suggests that the language you speak affects how you see the world. For example, some indigenous languages don't have words for left or right. Instead, they use cardinal directions north, south, east, west for everything. Imagine living in such a language. Your sense of space, time, and movement would be completely different. Or consider the ancient Greeks. Their language had multiple words for love, eros for passion, agape for unconditional love, philia for friendship. Their very worldview was enriched by the ability to distinguish these nuances. Compare that to English, where love is a single word carrying many meanings. Doesn't that suggest that language doesn't just describe reality, it builds it? This means the origins of language are not just about survival or communication. They are about shaping consciousness. Every word is a tool, a filter through which we understand existence. To uncover the hidden origins of language is to explore not just history, but the very architecture of the mind. And yet, even with all our science and archaeology, there remains something mystical about it. Myths of a first language still echo across cultures. The Dogon people of West Africa speak of Namo, a being who brought language and speech as a gift from the stars. In Jewish mysticism, it is said that the Hebrew alphabet is older than the universe itself, and that God used it to create the world, whether myth or memory. These stories hint at a forgotten truth, that language may not simply be a human invention. It may be part of the cosmos itself, hidden code we have only begun to understand. Asterisk, if we follow the story forward, we reach one of the greatest puzzles of all. Why are there so many languages? Today, there are over 7,000 spoken around the world. Some are shared by millions, like English or Mandarin. Others belong to only a few hundred speakers, often at the edge of extinction. But if humans all came from the same ancestors, how did language branch into so many forms? The most common theory is simple: isolation. When groups of people separated, their speech evolved in different directions. Over centuries, these small changes added up until new distinct languages emerged. But there's also something deeper at play. Languages don't just drift randomly, they evolve like living organisms. They simplify, expand, and sometimes borrow from each other, almost as if they have wills of their own. Take Latin, the language of the Roman Empire. When the empire fell, Latin didn't disappear. It fractured into French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian. Each evolved its own sound and structure, yet traces of their common roots still remain. This process continues today. English, for instance, is changing faster than ever, with slang and digital communication reshaping it daily. And yet, amid this diversity, linguists have discovered surprising patterns. No matter the continent, every language has certain features in common: nouns and verbs, subjects and objects, ways to describe the past and future. These similarities point to what Noam Chomsky called universal grammar, an underlying blueprint for all human languages. According to Chomsky, we are born with an innate capacity for language, like a seed waiting to grow. We don't just learn words, we're wired for them. But what if this universal grammar isn't just biological? What if it points to something more mysterious, some original source of language that humanity has long forgotten? Here's where the idea of a mother tongue comes in. Some scholars believe that all languages today can be traced back to a single, ancient language spoken tens of thousands of years ago. They call it proto-world. It would be the ancestor of every tongue, from Zulu to Japanese to English. But what did it sound like? No one knows for sure. Linguists have tried to reconstruct fragments, finding echoes of similar words across families of languages. For example, the word for mother often begins with an M sound across cultures. Coincidence or a trace of the very first word ever spoken. Others go even further, suggesting that the origin of language might not have been earthly at all. Could it be that language was not invented but received? Ancient myths, like those of the Dogon or the Sumerians, suggest that speech was a gift from beings beyond our world. Some researchers even speculate that the structure of language resembles codes found in mathematics and genetics, as if the universe itself thinks in symbols. What's undeniable is that language is more than communication, it's identity. To lose a language is to lose a worldview, a unique way of perceiving reality. Indigenous languages, many now endangered, contain knowledge about nature, medicine, spirituality that cannot be translated into modern tongues. When a language dies, it's as if an entire dimension of human consciousness fades with it. And yet, at the same time, languages are merging. English has become a global tongue, borrowing words from nearly every other language it touches. The internet accelerates this process, creating a strange paradox. While thousands of languages vanish, new hybrid forms are born every day. Memes, emojis, slang, they may not look like traditional language, but they function the same way, symbols carrying meaning across space and time. So maybe the origin of language is not a single point in history, but a continuous unfolding. From cave paintings to hieroglyphs, from cuneiform to texting, humans have always been inventing new ways to encode thought. Language is alive because it changes. And in that change lies its hidden power. But here's the biggest mystery. Why does language exist at all? Why can sounds, marks, or even gestures carry meaning? Why does the word fire conjure an image in your mind, while a random noise does not? Some philosophers argue that language connects us to something beyond ourselves, that meaning is not invented but discovered, that when we speak, we are tapping into a vast, unseen network of thought that has always existed. Could it be that language is the bridge between the human mind and the cosmos? That every word, no matter how ordinary, is part of a greater code? If so, then to understand the hidden origins of language is not just to learn about history. It is to peer into the very structure of reality itself. Asterisk. Imagine this. You are standing inside an ancient temple. The walls are carved with symbols, and a low chant fills the air. You don't understand the words, but you feel them. The sound vibrates in your chest, echoing through the stone, resonating with something deep inside you. This is not just communication. It is something older, something sacred, across cultures. Certain sounds and words have been treated as more than language. They are seen as keys to hidden knowledge. The ancient Sanskrit syllable om, for example, is said to contain the vibration of the universe itself. In Egypt, priests believed that to speak a word was to invoke its power, shaping reality. In the Christian tradition, the Gospel of John begins with the line, "In the beginning was the Word." These teachings suggest that language is not merely human invention, but a force woven into the fabric of existence. Mantras, prayers, and chants from different traditions all reveal a hidden dimension of language, sound as energy. Modern science has begun to catch glimpses of this truth. Experiments in cymatics, the study of sound vibrations, show how certain frequencies can arrange particles of sand or water into geometric patterns. In other words, sound can literally shape matter. Could this explain why sacred sounds were once believed to hold creative power? If sound shapes reality, then language might be more than description. It might be creation. The words we use could influence not just how we think, but what we experience. Consider this. Different languages carve up reality in different ways. The Hopi people of North America describe time not as a straight line, but as a flowing process. The Pirahu tribe of the Amazon has no past or future tense, only the present. These linguistic differences don't just change grammar, they change perception. To speak in a language is to inhabit a worldview. This brings us to one of the most profound questions: who controls language? Throughout history, rulers and empires have understood that to shape language is to shape thought. The Sumerians and Egyptians developed writing systems not only to record but to command. Later, kings, priests, and governments created official scripts and dictionaries, deciding which words were proper and which were forbidden. Even today, language is a tool of power. Media, education, and technology decide what terms we use, subtly steering our perception of reality. Yet beneath this control, there is something untamable about language. It slips through the cracks, evolves in secret, resists authority. Slang emerges in the streets, poetry bends words into new shapes, coded languages bloom under oppression. It is as if language itself has a life force, always pushing toward expression, no matter the barriers. And then there is the question of silence. Silence, too, is part of the hidden origins of language. In many spiritual traditions, silence is the space in which true understanding arises. The Zen masters use paradoxical sayings not to explain but to point beyond words. Mystics in all religions describe moments when words dissolve, leaving only direct experience. This suggests that, while language is a bridge, it is not the destination. Beyond language lies something even greater, the source from which it flows. Perhaps this is the final secret of language. It connects us, not only to each other, but to the unseen. Every word we speak is a thread in an invisible web stretching across humanity and into the cosmos. Every sound carries an echo of the first voices, the first chants, the first attempt to name the mysteries of existence. So when we ask, where did language come from? We are also asking, where do we come from? And what are we trying to say? Because maybe language is not just about words, it is about longing. The longing to connect, to share, to make sense of the world. And in that longing, we discover that the origins of language are not buried in the past. They are alive, right now, in every conversation, every story, every whisper, and every song, in the end. The hidden origins of language remind us of something profound. Words are not just tools. They are bridges. They are spells. They are mirrors reflecting who we are and portals to what we might become. The true mystery is not simply how language began, but where it is taking us and whether through it. We might one day hear not just each other, but the universe itself speaking back. Asterisk.